So now that we have our information that we want to put in the CV, we have done our research of our recruiter, we know what our skills are, what our strong points are, and we have decided to put together the CV. The next thing we want to find out is to make sure that the information that we're putting in the CV is actually relevant to what the employer wants. In this case, you need to really edit ruthlessly and make sure that nothing is in there that doesn't need to be there. Only include information that is relevant, and never also use one CV for more than one application. Many people are fond of having one generic CV, and every time they have an application, they put it together and send it to the employer. Never use one CV for more than one application. Tailor your CV to each opportunity. This may seem stressful, but I tell you, it is very well worth it. Then you need to ask yourself, and this is where doing your research about what your employer wants, what is written on the role specifications on the vacancy advertisement, this is where you need to consider every single word that's in there to make sure that what you're putting in with your application is a strong fit between the terms of reference or person specifications and your CV. If it is not contributing, then consider removing it. Make sure that if any information on your CV is not relevant, make sure you remove it. There's this test you need to ask yourself. If you were the recruiter, you need to ask yourself, why are you telling the recruiter this? Is it because it's what you feel you need to tell them, or is it because it is what the recruiter wants to hear? Tell them what they want to know, not what you think you should put there. And then this brings us to the issue of formatting. Lots of times, many people put their CVs together and it contains a lot of beautiful stuff, very relevant stuff. But the formatting is where many people get it wrong. Most times we want to cram so many things into just 1 or 2 pages. You want to tell them everything about your experiences, your life history. If you were a recruiter, the thing you'll be asking yourself is, do I want to read this? If you look at the paper and it's looking all cramped up, do you really want to read it? If it looks very difficult on the eyes, do you really want to read it? So what you need to do is the arm's length test, whereby you put the paper right in your eye and you look at it from an arm's length and ask yourself whether you can see what is on the page. And this is where editing ruthlessly comes into play. You can see there it says that's those small fonts that you're struggling to read says no size 8 fonts and tiny margins. Don't, because of trying to conserve space, force a lot of stuff into very little space. Use standard fonts and be very uniform throughout. Line up the text in columns. Use short sentences instead of long paragraphs. Break up the text with bullet points to help make your point very clear. Don't use too many capital letters or unnecessary fonts or unnecessary colors. It makes everything better. You put it simply, put your CV very simple and straight to the point. Make sure the emphasis should be on getting the good stuff on the first page. If you are unable to catch the recruiter's attention, they will most likely not read the rest of it. But if you are successful in doing that, they are most likely to be impressed and they will spend more time looking through the rest of your CV. Never forget, the more time the recruiter spends in considering your application, the greater your chances of being selected for the interview. And again, logical structure, clear sections, and headings. So this brings me to the final point, the general tips to make sure that everything is intact. You want to, after putting together your CV and using the right formatting, the right spacing, and making sure your CV is all nice and beautiful, what you want to check is to cross-check what you have in your CV with what is written on the role specifications on the vacancy advertisement. You want to check each role, whether you have been able to demonstrate all what the recruiter is looking out for. This is really, really very, very important. I cannot overemphasize this. Having done that, the next thing you want to do is to spell check and do a proofreading. Don't get it clear, please. Spell checking and proofreading are two different things. Spell checking is when you're checking the spellings, and meanwhile proofreading, sometimes this is where you can get it wrong with autocorrect. If autocorrect is on your Microsoft Word, you find that autocorrect can only detect where you are spelling things wrongly. But when you are using words wrongly in a wrong context, autocorrect cannot detect that. So that's why you need to do a proofreading or get someone to proofread for you. And then, of course, I've talked about the relevance. Why are you telling the recruiter this? Is it because the recruiter wants to hear it, or you are just